Hello, everybody. What a crazy, not in a good way, day in the market. Everything was red again. It felt pretty dire, especially around 2 p.m. Central Time. Towards the end, towards the close, we got a little bit better, but frankly, not much. After so much drawdowns we've had over the past 2 weeks, we keep going down. The markets are not doing well. The 2020s are not going to be a good decade in my view. This is the third crisis of this type that we get in a 5-year period now. But MicroStrategy is doing oh so well. Look at MicroStrategy. It's up. It's green on the day. This is insane. This is, this is just crazy because, of course, if you follow Bitcoin and if you follow MicroStrategy, everybody in mainstream media, in mainstream finance tells you how wrong you are. And then you realize that in market turmoil, actually, MicroStrategy is having a field day. Everything's amazing for MicroStrategy. So I'm so happy, I'm so happy. If we had a green day, that stock would probably be up way more. And I think he was ATMing today. That's what I think, because just when you look at the chart, MicroStrategy fell harder than the general market. I think Saylor took the opportunity early in the day to sell some shares, some ATM. He did the ATM on the common shares, on the common. Why do I think he did that on the common? Because it's clear that he still loves to do the common. And so now as the earnings call approaches and the results approach, as they approach, we'll find out if he's going to expand the value of the ATM, right? The 21 billion in the ATM, in the common stock ATM, because if you look, there's only 1.53 billion left of MSTR shares for sale. So is he gonna re-up that? Is he gonna update that? I think he's going to have to, because if you look at the ATM, it's still mostly an ATM story. It's still mostly a printing the common to buy Bitcoin story. You print the common and you capture the delta in the price to NAV. So, in other words, another way to think about it is, you see it's trading at a 1.80. So you take in $1.80, right? $1 is dilution. 80 cents is gain, is the way to think about it. Another way to think about it is you print $1 for $1.80. And I think he likes this price, and I like this price too. Noteworthy, though, to note that he ATM'd, right, 91,000 STRK shares for 7.8 million. Now, this may look like not a lot, and it's not a lot, but he's testing things out, right? When he started doing the ATM, he wasn't bold right away with the ATM, right? He started slowly doing the ATM. If you remember, in the early days, he was more about the converts and more about borrowing money. Now he's all in on the ATM. I see a future where he's going to be all in on Strike and eventually on Strife if he gets a 21 billion offering on Strife, which I think he will do eventually, hopefully next quarter. But anyways, it's positive to see that he did the Strike ATM, even if it's just 8 million. It's positive to see that he did that. And I have to see how we calculate that. How are we going to calculate this? Because we can't really use a price to NAV, but it's not quite a pure gain either. So I think as the Strike ATM becomes more meaningful, we, the MicroStrategy people, are going to have to find a way to analyze that and calculate whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. I think it's a very good idea to dilute. I love dilution. I've always loved dilution, and on my channel I've got a lot of flack for loving dilution. I think dilution is great for most companies, if only Mr. Market would understand, because when you dilute, right, you use your capital structure to finance the business. You don't use the highly taxed revenue line to finance the business. You use the capital structure to finance the business. Anyways, I'm on my own on this one, except in the MicroStrategy community, because people who get MicroStrategy get that dilution is good for MicroStrategy. By the way, if you look at how much money he made this month, so far this month, right? So we're 21 days in, he made $459 million of BTC dollar gain for strategy shareholders. So again, take that number, annualize it, and ask yourself, is that PE right? Is that PE correct? And I don't think it is correct. I agree with Saylor on this. I think the stock is way undervalued because the market doesn't know how to price it. Welcome to the club. There's a lot of very innovative companies companies at the edge of what they do that are totally mispriced by the market. Meanwhile, Costco is trading at 45 times earnings, and I don't even think they were open anytime this weekend. Like, it was just closed. Like, I've been trying to go closed. So anyways, Amazon's open. I ended up buying stuff on Amazon and stuff. Costco. The point is, you have a company that the market is giving insane valuation to, and then you have over markets that are misunderstood. And this is one that is misunderstood. I think this stock is still heavily undervalued, absolutely undervalued. And let's talk about the day now. Now I want to talk a little bit about the day. Is Bitcoin becoming a risk-off asset? It's funny that Bitcoin not only was obviously up, right? And by the way, this is from Terra News EN. If you wanna know who posted that. It's not only is it up compared to the traditional markets. For some reason, CNBC seems to be the only one in the green. They're going to make a lot of money on the blood, so that's why. But Bitcoin is up quite a bit compared to the traditional markets. It's also up quite a bit compared to the other cryptocurrencies, even though Bitcoin is a commodity. It's not technically a cryptocurrency. Some people still make the amalgamation between the two. The point is, the dominance is growing of Bitcoin compared to the other cryptos, and of course, the stocks are going down and Bitcoin is going up, which is absolutely amazing. What is it that caused the crash today? Well, I'm not gonna say much about this, but because I've been calling for the rates to be dropped for 3-4 years. I mean, of course, if the rates are not going down, of course, the bankruptcies are going to speed up, right? Think about a stock that I like to pick on in a friendly way on this channel, but I like to pick on CVS and Walgreens, right? Ask yourself, how much better would a CVS and a Walgreens be doing if the rates were zero, right? A lot of bankruptcies are precipitated by these interest rates being stubbornly high. And so, I'm not going to say anything about this. I think my points, my views of Powell and my views of the cuts are very clear, which is I think he should have done that, namely almost 4 years ago when he lied and when he said we're not thinking about raising rates, and ended up doing the biggest round of rate hikes in the history of the Fed. And I'm still not over this, and it's 4 years now. But of course, doesn't matter for us. We got deals. I got good deals. I'm happy with the deals we got in the market. But think about all of the many innovative companies that went out of business, innovative companies that goes bankrupt. Cathie Wood sometimes talks about that. Like, so many companies who really waited to IPO and they can't IPO, and they end up going bankrupt. And so innovation suffers with rates this high. Anyways, that's a tangent. Another point is gold. Gold is doing so well. I didn't overlay it with Bitcoin, but of course, if I overlaid it with Bitcoin, go back far enough, like go back a year or two, and you'll see Bitcoin, of course, outperforms gold. But gold is easy to understand. Gold is still more accepted as a risk haven asset compared to Bitcoin. Looking at the rate cuts, it seems like not only we have a rate cut war, but we also have an escalation of elected president of the United States versus unelected Fed chair of a private corporation. War. That's essentially the war, and I think overall these tweets are negative because by putting out tweets like this, he's even less likely to do it, right? He's even less likely to drop the rates because then it becomes like a personal vendetta or something. So I don't think that's helping in this specific situation. Especially because if you're somebody who's followed the market, this is obvious that the rates need to be cut, and they need to be cut ASAP. And this is what I've said in my prior videos. This is why Michael Saylor is probably looking about raising some money elsewhere, not in the US, raising money in the Eurozone or in the Canada zone. Why? Because I consider the monetary policy of a Euro or the Canadian to be much more pragmatic and realistic of the fiat system. Euro or Canada is not living in La La Land. They know they have to kill the currency. they're killing the currency. They know full well the currency is going to zero. They know they have to kill it. They've lost all hope to save it. And that's why they're dropping the rates. We have a head of the Fed who's living in La La Land, who thinks people want to buy bonds, who thinks foreign countries want to buy bonds, who thinks the US is going to have an easy time refinancing more than 10 trillion, I think, this year or something like that, who thinks there's buyers for 30-year bonds. The reason why they issued so many short-term treasuries is because nobody would buy the long-term treasuries. Nobody was interested. So anyways, it's a mess. The rates need to go down, but this is also being Mr. Obvious here. It's obvious the rates need to go down. Anyways, I cover plenty of stocks on the channel, and this is a reminder. If you're new to the channel, this is a reminder. So I have 3 pillars of my investing style. Pillar number 1 is money. Some people still call it Bitcoin, but I call it money. I made that change about a month ago. So pillar number 1 is money. You simply save money. And how do you save money? Well, I save money with Bitcoin pure form, of course, because I was in Bitcoin in the times where no company ever owned Bitcoin. It was not possible to own a company with any exposure to Bitcoin. I remember those days. It wasn't that long ago, but now of course I prefer owning Bitcoin in the form of a company built on top of Bitcoin. The best of which, of course, is MSTR. MSTR is a Bitcoin derivative. All of these companies right there are fiat derivatives. They are fighting a battle, taking in a poison, which is fiat, right? Through the revenue line, you take fiat, and fiat is a poison. That is how. So these companies have to be very high quality and very high performing to outpace that poison that is fiat, right? To outpace the debasement, outpace the 15%. The 15%, if your company is not growing revenue by 15% a year, you are going down. You are getting smaller, right? You gotta grow your revenue, your top line at the same pace as the money supply. So these companies, my second bucket and my third bucket, they are a derivative of fiat. They're a derivative of an asset that is devaluing very, very quickly. The only money that I allow myself to own is a derivative of a asset that is actually gaining value and gaining more and more value. And of course, pure form and MSTR is one. I own some miners as well. And miners are like a prime example of that, because when you mine Bitcoin, you're taking in money in the form of Bitcoin. You're not taking in money in the form of fiat. So anyways, that's the first bucket. The second bucket is Tesla, Nvidia, Palantir. These are just examples of stocks that I own, but I consider them to be the best companies regardless of valuation. I don't look at valuation whatsoever for these companies. And then the third bucket is the quality companies at the cheapest growth adjusted valuation. And I could make a case actually that I consider HIMS to be highest quality in the bunch here. You could also make a case that some of these fit all 2 buckets. There's two buckets, right? So HIMS, if you take HIMS is bucket number 3, and I could argue it's bucket number 2. Some people could argue Tesla is bucket number 2, sorry, but it's also bucket number 1, because Tesla owns a boatload of Bitcoin, right? It's consistent it's almost in the top 10. It's always in the top 10. It's just that the market cap of Tesla is so huge compared to the Bitcoin they own that the Bitcoin has become irrelevant. Anyways, the last thing I'll say today about days like this, and of course, you must know that by now because I keep making this video about the crash, is that when there's a crash, correlation goes to 1 and everything drops, everything crashes except things that are not related, right? Like Bitcoin or gold, but everything crashes except commodities, right? So look at this, like it's like, do you think when you look at all these companies that are so disparate, so different, and so many different opinions, right? I think the consensus would tell you, your average Wall Street investor would tell you, oh, Nvidia and HIMS probably look very undervalued right now, and they would tell you, oh, Tesla and Palantir look nosebleed valuation right now. Well, guess what? It really doesn't matter. Mr. Market just dumps it all, right? If you average this out, you're at what, 4.5% drop on average. Palantir, which has been performing outstandingly throughout this crash. Outstanding performance of Palantir throughout this crash. Even Palantir dropped more than the Nasdaq today. So anyways, probably nothing wrong with your companies. It's the denominator that's broken. It's the markets that's broken. It's the macro that's broken. It's not the companies. It's the macro. It's the market. It's the denominator. And this is just the way it is. So stay strong, I guess. Don't sell. That's definitely not what I'm doing. I'm definitely not selling anything. So this was not investment advice, not financial advice, just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.